Hello ladies and gentlemen, Willie here. I've wanted to do a video on this subject for a while, but I haven't. Why? Because it's not gonna change or influence anything. A post on the retail World of Warcraft subreddit the other day caught my eye though, and I thought, fine, I'll do the video. Here we go then. Boosting is bad for Classic, but it's not gonna go anywhere. I get why people do it, okay? This isn't me wanting to have a go at anybody who does this or saying you should feel bad at yourselves. It's easily the highest gold income possible in the game, and quite frankly, a lot of people have played a lot of Classic beforehand, or even are just newer players leveling alts who have found out the part of Classic they enjoy the most is at the endgame with the gearing progression ladder, or trying out a new role, or PvP, and that leveling just really isn't for them. World of Warcraft leveling has always been quite dividing for people who just can't stand it and want to get it out of the way as soon as possible, and that's fine, it's your free time. You do you. But for the have-nots or more casual players, putting a group together can be a real problem. Now, I see a lot of people say this and then they back it up with, but I spent 45 minutes spamming LFG Dungeon Ret Pala and I couldn't find anything. Okay, let's not make life harder for yourself than it has to be, but even doing LFM instead of LFG, yeah, it can be quite an uphill battle. On top of this, it makes a lot of the game, do you have a main on that server who has gold? Okay then, here's the easy route. If you don't, well, unlucky I guess. And then there's gold bid runs, and I don't think I've seen an endgame dungeon or pug raid without the word res or bid in ages. Fact of the matter is, a lot of people are very happy to essentially pay to win. It's in-game gold though, so it's fine, apparently. Pay your way through leveling, pay to get your items in raids. Join gold bid raids so you can soak up some of that mage AoE farm gold at the end as a poor warrior or a priest. Gold is king, boosting is fast, and fast is best. I feel like we need to fit an E into MMORPG somewhere for the word efficiency. How about MMOERPG? Maybe people get the wrong impression with the ERP phrase in there. Google at your own risk. Anyway, so that little bit out the way, you may have noticed earlier that I mentioned retail, not Classic, two very different games, I'm sure you'll agree. But it's kind of interesting what has happened recently. I'll show you. So first of all, let's go back and look at this post from 2 years ago now. We will no longer allow any advertisements in the group finder for in-game services such as carries or boosts, including those being offered in exchange for in-game gold. The group finder is intended for, as its name suggests, finding groups, and these advertisements make it difficult to find active groups that are currently being formed. It also mentions that they are often a front for links to real money trading in one way or another, which is certainly true. I actually had no idea that this was implemented such a long time ago, because even when I played retail more actively back around the start of Classic, the LFG tool was still packed with advertisements. It felt like next to nothing was actually being enforced, or maybe there was just that many advertisements going on. This phrase is also very important, I feel. Note that this does not change our policy on selling things such as raid carries for in-game gold. Those are still allowed, but should be advertised through realm-specific methods such as trade chat. So the LFG tool looks like this in retail. You post your group, people sign up, you can gauge their gear, class, role and basic information, or with an add-on installed get a lot more information on top of that. It's important to know that the LFG tool is cross-server, so this means that anybody and everybody trying to advertise would massively clog up the tool and make it a really poor option for actually finding a group, whereas using server-based options such as trade for selling things is all good. And in case you were wondering what a trade chat on a full server looks like in retail, here you go. Basically unusable for actual trading. Not a good look either, if I'm honest. Then again, professions and trading in general is different in retail. Basically everything can be done through the auction house, even stuff like enchantments. As I say, it's a totally different game. Just as of recently though, and this is why I decided to finally make this video, is evidence that players are getting bans for advertising boosts in the LFG tool, like the ones I'm showing here. People even advertise their Twitch in the WoW LFG. I mean, come on, it's like you're trying to get banned. What are you even doing? Would I prefer a ban for advertising on WoW or on Twitch for selling a service? This post also points towards the code of conduct specifically, and I quote, and creates an unacceptable detriment to players. Heading on over to that documentation now, this has to fall under the behavior tab, as far as I can tell from having a look through it, which also says, and I quote, acceptable behavior is determined by player reports and Blizzard's decision, and violating these guidelines will result in account and gameplay restrictions. This code of conduct is applicable to Blizzard games in general, by the way, not just specifically for retail World of Warcraft, and it's interesting to note that it's down to Blizzard's decision whether a player activity should be allowed to continue or be done in such a manner. though it certainly is rare that this power is actively used, and that it tends to be more often than not quite unanimous that people will be agreeable to the decision that Blizzard makes. At the end of the day, you don't own your account. You did read the EULA, right? So Blizzard is saying only advertise on your own realm, or get a ban is the short version of what all I have just said. And that is exactly what's happening on Classic at the moment. Thing is, all of these paid services are in competition with players trying to find groups, and players in Classic will not be able to advertise boost through trade since it's not a global server channel. You have to be in a city to access trade, or have a second account, so it's kind of difficult to do. Also, there are no official in-game service channels or anything like that. The closest thing we have to a global and official channel is World, but if that gets in the hands of the wrong person, they just randomly ban everyone overnight. On top of this, even if there were to be a paid service-specific channel, LFG would still be just as dead. Players who would want boost would find the new relevant channel and go through there. It wouldn't really encourage people to run dungeons as a natural part of their leveling experience. And finally, let's have the ultimate hypothetical and say that boosting itself was no longer allowed. Do you remember what happened before boosting? Spell cleaves or melee cleaves with Ravager happened. No matter the scenario, like I said at the start, this wouldn't really change anything in the game. Now don't get me wrong, boosting has always been a thing in WoW. Even paid boosts back in the day during vanilla, it was an occurrence, just nowhere near as common as it is now. And that's the difference here. Like with world buffs or min-maxing, everything is just put up to such an incredibly high standard these days. I mean, Blizzard literally gave us the threat API a few weeks back. Can you imagine that? This would have been like getting the holy grail in vanilla, and now it's just, well, you guys pretty much have figured everything out, here's the rest of the answers that you were missing. I don't think anyone's really complaining, but wow, that's something I would have never expected Blizzard to do. And people didn't even raise an eyebrow towards this. I have to say though, having leveled on a number of different server types, it does very much seem like different types of players gravitate towards certain realms. And in my experience, PvP realms have a far higher number of people who have either played the game for years, know it inside out, or just take the game on a far more hardcore and serious level. When Classic first came out, I fully expected every single hardcore guild to be on a PvP realm, and that has ended up being true. It's got some stuff to do with online egos too, let's be real. Your peers won't respect you if you dodge PvP, and also in certain circumstances like we're seeing at the moment with farming for the Scarab Lord, you can actively contest resources which wouldn't have been possible on PvE servers, so there's multiple reasons for them to be on PvP. But there is a massive amount of ego built around a game that's not really technically all that hard. It just needs you to be able to put your life on hold and grind at certain points throughout the game. And whenever you hear talk about top guilds in Classic, there are always words thrown around like organised, prepared, experience, which is a kind of difficulty. It's just not very interesting for most people, and it's even more than just a little bit difficult to get into if you haven't already been part of the scene beforehand, if you know what I mean. Whereas I have seen a considerable, and I mean considerably higher number of newer players or more casual players on PvE realms. I think that quite a few people made the switch over in Phase 2, where open world PvP was more or less grinded to dust by the super hardcore players, but still it's such a different player base. You would really be surprised at how just many more groups there are going there. Don't fool yourself, there are still boosts. People want to make gold of course, but far less so than I have seen on other server types. If this is a real complaint of yours, honestly, you might just be playing on the wrong type of realm compared to the expectations that you have out of the game. Boosts aren't going anywhere anytime soon. Even in TBC, where there are AoE caps, I'm certain that something will replace it, though maybe not to the equal level of degeneracy that mages are able to pull off at the moment. Just like several other things that are perceived issues in Classic, it's just sort of how it was back then, or things that were possible back then, or that's how it was presented at least. We have already seen changes in game to accommodate for our considerably larger servers, or in some instances our much more knowledgeable player base, like more Black Lotus spawns, nerfing the AV jumps, being given a threat API, and so on. But boosting, whilst I do think it's a net bad for the game, doesn't really have any same kind of effect upon the game as these do. Whilst it is a player-made issue, I don't think there's a solution in Classic, or even that there necessarily should be. Go make a level 1 on a PvE server and join /LFG if you want to see how it compares to your current server. It may just open you up to realise there is more of an in-game solution than you thought. Anyways, what are all your thoughts of this on boosting, leveling, and so on? I bet it's going to be a pretty clear cut on either side. In any event, I do hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all in the next one very soon. If you like what you see, do give the video a like and subscribe, as there will be plenty more to come. Take care guys, and I'll see you in the next one very soon.